The sensor screamed across the Concordat observation station. Commander Veltar's three eyes widened as he stared at the impossible readings. Sol system had returned. For 50,000 years the system had been empty, just a void where 8 planets and a yellow star should have been. Every species in the galaxy knew the story. Earth, the lost world. Humanity, the vanished ones. Children learned about them in history files. Scientists studied the empty space, finding nothing but darkness. Now the darkness had ended. "Confirm the readings," Veltar ordered, his mandibles clicking nervously. His second officer, a floating Quillari named Innes, ran the scans 3 more times. "It's real, Commander. Sol system is back. All 8 planets. The star, everything." Innes paused, her forearms trembling. "And there are ships. Hundreds of ships." The news reached Concordat Central within an hour. The council chambers on Lumina Prime erupted into chaos. Ambassador Thelkasir, a tall insectoid with silver chitin and deep black eyes, stood before the gathered representatives of 1,000 worlds. "This is impossible," said High Counselor Mirthane, a Verathan whose crystalline body pulsed with anxious red light. "Our ancestors watched Earth vanish. Every probe sent to Sol returned empty. The humans are gone, dead. This must be a trick." "The scans don't lie," Thelkasir replied calmly. "Earth has returned to normal space. We must send a delegation." "And if they're hostile?" asked Speaker Vortax, representing the Mikari collective. Humans were aggressive, expansionist. They refused to accept the natural order. Perhaps their disappearance was a blessing. Thelkasir's antennae twitched with displeasure. They were a young species, scared, alone. We owe them answers about what happened. I volunteered to lead the first contact mission. The council argued for 3 days. Finally, they agreed. Thelkasir would take the diplomatic ship Harmony's light to Earth. She would bring gifts, extend friendship, and learn what had happened to humanity. The journey took 2 weeks through faster-than-light corridors. Thelkasir spent the time reviewing old files about humans. They were bipedal mammals, short-lived, emotional. They had discovered atomic power and began reaching into space when they vanished. The records showed Earth disappearing in a flash of strange energy. No explanation. No warning. "Approaching Sol system," her pilot announced. "Detecting multiple vessels. They're not attacking, but they're definitely watching us." Thelkasir looked at the view screen. Earth hung in space like a blue jewel, exactly as the old images showed. But surrounding it were ships unlike anything in current galactic design. Sleek. Angular. They seemed to shift slightly, as if not entirely fixed in normal space. "This is Ambassador Thelkasir of the Concordat, representing 10,000 species in friendship and peace. We seek to speak with representatives of Earth." The response came immediately. "Permission granted, Ambassador. Landed coordinates being transmitted. Welcome home." The voice was human. Female. It spoke Galactic Standard perfectly with no accent or hesitation. That was strange. Humans should have forgotten all galactic languages during their isolation. Harmony's light descended through Earth's atmosphere. Cities covered the continents, but they looked different from the old records. More vertical, more integrated with nature. Rivers ran clean. Forests covered vast areas alongside urban centers. The ship landed on a platform outside a massive tower. Thelkasir and her small team stepped out. The air smelled of flowers and rain. A group of humans waited for them. The lead human was a woman in a dark blue uniform with silver markings. She was tall for her species, with brown skin and sharp eyes that seemed to see everything. She smiled, but the smile didn't reach those calculating eyes. "Ambassador Thelkasir, I'm Captain Sarah Chen of the Terran Defense Forces. Thank you for coming." She extended her hand in the old human gesture of greeting. Thelkasir took the hand carefully. Human skin felt warm, alive. "Captain Chen, we have many questions. Your world vanished 50,000 years ago, yet you stand here as if no time has passed. How is this possible?" Sarah's smile faded. "For you, it was 50,000 years. For us, it was 200. We didn't vanish, Ambassador. We were taken. Forced into a pocket dimension. A prison. Taken by whom?" "By the same forces that rule this galaxy," Sarah said quietly. "The ones you serve. The ones who maintain your precious peace." Thelkasir felt her blood chill. "I don't understand." "You will." Sarah gestured toward the tower. "Come, we have much to discuss." "And Ambassador?" "We know about the harvesters. We lived in the space where they feed. We saw everything." As they walked toward the tower, Thelkasir noticed other things. Human soldiers standing at attention, wearing armor that seemed to phase slightly in and out of visibility. Weapons mounted on buildings that didn't look like any technology in the Concordate database. And in the sky, those strange ships watching, waiting. Inside a conference room, Sarah activated a holographic display. Images appeared. Massive structures floating in the darkness between stars. Organic shapes like enormous sea creatures made of metal and something else. Something wrong. These are the harvesters, Sarah explained. Your leaders know about them. They've always known. Every 50,000 years they choose a species to sacrifice, to feed to these things. In exchange, the harvesters leave the rest of the galaxy alone. 30,000 years of peace, Ambassador, built on regular genocide. That's insane, Thelkasir said, but her voice wavered. The Council would never— The Council absolutely would, Sarah interrupted. They did. They chose us because we were young, aggressive, asking too many questions. We were supposed to die. Instead, we adapted. We survived, and we learned the truth about your civilized galaxy. Thelkasir sat down heavily. Her mind raced. Could this be true? The ancient species on the Council, the Verithan and Maikari, they had always been secretive about certain historical events. There were sealed archives, forbidden research topics. What do you want? Thelkasir asked finally. Sarah leaned forward, her eyes hard as steel. We want justice. We want the truth exposed. And we want every species in this galaxy to know they're living in a beautiful cage. She paused. We came back, Ambassador, and we brought war with us. Not against you. Against the real enemy. The question is, will you help us or will you try to stop us? Outside, the sun was setting on Earth. The last light caught the watching ships, making them gleam like predators' eyes. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. Lumina Prime gleamed like a jewel among the stars. The capital world of the Concordate housed representatives from 10,000 species. Crystal towers reached toward purple skies. Gardens from 100 worlds grew in perfect harmony. Rivers of pure water wound between buildings designed by minds that thought in dimensions beyond human understanding. It was paradise. Everyone said so. Junior analyst Kex didn't feel like he lived in paradise. He felt like he lived in a library with too many secrets. The young Quellan sat in the archives of historical record, his forearms sorting through data files while his antenna twitched with frustration. He had been assigned a simple task 3 days ago. Prepare a briefing document on Earth's disappearance. Simple, routine. Except nothing about Earth was simple. Every file he accessed had redactions. Black spaces where information should be, sealed sections requiring council-level clearance. And the more he dug, the stranger the pattern became. Kex pulled up another file. Historical Survey Vanished Civilizations. He scanned the list. The Krell Dominion, vanished 50,000 years before Earth. The Vex Unity, gone 50,000 years before the Krell. The pattern continued backward, 13 civilizations total, each disappearing exactly 50,000 years after the previous one. That's not a coincidence, Kex muttered to himself. That's a schedule. His supervisor, an elderly Verithan named Crystal Song and Morning, drifted past his station. Her crystalline body hummed softly. Still researching the humans, young one? Yes, Elder, but I'm finding more questions than answers. Look at this pattern. Some patterns are not meant to be understood by junior analysts, Crystal Song said gently. The Council has reviewed all relevant materials. Your job is to summarize available information, not to investigate sealed archives. After she left, Kex sat quietly for a moment. Then he did something he had never done before. He accessed restricted files using his supervisor's credentials. His hands shook as he worked. This could end his career. But something felt wrong. Very wrong. The restricted files opened. What he saw made his blood freeze. Records of council meetings from 50,000 years ago. Debates about the human problem. Discussions of necessary culling. References to something called the Harvest Protocol. And then he found it. A single document partially corrupted that contained a phrase that changed everything. Agreement with the harvesters remains in effect. Sacrifice schedule maintained. Galactic peace preserved. Kex closed the files quickly, his heart's pounding. He needed to think. He needed to understand what this meant. Meanwhile, in the council chambers, the emergency session had been ongoing for hours. The circular room held representatives from every major species. The atmosphere was tense. High Counselor Murthane stood at the center. his crystalline body now a deep, troubled purple. The humans are spreading across the galaxy. They're sending scout ships to every system. They're asking questions. Dangerous questions. What kind of questions? Asked Representative Talmor of the peaceful Hisiri. They're scanning the dark spaces between stars, Murthine replied. The empty zones we designated as forbidden regions. They're looking for the harvesters. The chamber erupted into nervous conversation. Speaker Vortex of the Mikari raised his collective voice. This is exactly what we feared. Humans are aggressive, unstable. They should have died with the others. Now they threaten everything we've built. Ambassador Thelkasir stood. Since returning from Earth, she had been quiet, watching, thinking. Now she spoke. Everything we've built on what? I've seen their evidence. I've heard their claims. I want to know the truth. Did we make a deal with these harvesters? The silence that followed was damning. Finally, Murthane spoke. Sit down, Ambassador. This is not for public discussion. Then make it private. Answer my question. The ancient Verethan's color shifted to angry red. Our ancestors made choices. Difficult choices. After the Harvester Wars, when these entities nearly extinguished all life in the galaxy, a treaty was negotiated. Peace in exchange for periodic adjustments to galactic population. Adjustments, Thelkasir repeated, her voice hollow. You mean murders. You mean genocide. We mean survival. Murthane's voice boomed. You young species don't remember the wars. Billions dead, entire worlds consumed. The harvesters cannot be fought. They exist partially outside our reality. Our ancestors chose life over pride. They chose continuation over extinction. By feeding them sapient beings every 50,000 years, Thelkasir said. By choosing which species dies. Species that were causing problems, Vortax added. Species that were too aggressive, too expansionist, too likely to destabilize galactic peace. The Krell were conquerors. The Vex were fanatics. The humans were heading down the same path. Thelkasir felt sick. And who decides? Who chooses which species is too problematic to live? The Council decides, Murthane said coldly. As it has for 150,000 years. And it has worked. Look around you, Ambassador. No wars, no famine, no suffering. This is paradise. Paradise built on corpses, Thelkasir whispered. That night, Kex received an encrypted message on his personal device. It was from an unknown source, but it contained Earth coordinates and a single line. We know you know. Meet us, he should have reported it. He should have told his supervisor. Instead, he booked passage on a merchant vessel heading toward the Sol system. 3 days later, he stood in the same conference room where Thelkasir had first learned the truth. Captain Sarah Chen sat across from him, along with other humans. Thelkasir was there too. She had been recalled to Earth after being suspended from her position for emotional instability. Thank you for coming, Sarah said. We've been monitoring concordant communications. We know you found the restricted files. Kex's antenna drooped nervously. I could be executed for what I did. We'll protect you, Sarah assured him. But first we need to know everything you found. Every detail, Kex told them. The pattern, the schedule, the phrase about maintaining peace through sacrifice. When he finished, Sarah and her team exchanged looks. It's worse than we thought, said Dr. Amara Okonkwo, a woman with kind eyes and gray hair. We suspected the elder species made a deal. But 150,000 years, 3 full cycles, they perfected the system, Commander Marcus Webb added. He was a scarred man with cold eyes. Pick a species, feed them to the monsters, enjoy 50,000 years of peace, repeat. What do we do? Kex asked. Even if we expose this, who will believe us? The Concordate controls all major information networks. Sarah smiled. It was not a nice smile. We don't use their networks. We use ours. We learned a lot during our 200 years in exile, including how to hack every communication system in the galaxy simultaneously. You're going to broadcast the truth, Thelkasir realized. Tomorrow, Sarah confirmed. Every planet, every ship, every data node. The entire galaxy will learn what their paradise costs. Kex felt hope and terror in equal measure. They'll call it lies, propaganda. Let them, Sarah said. We have proof. We have the sealed files. We have ships recording harvester installations right now, and we have defectors like you and Ambassador Thelkasir, who represent species throughout the galaxy. She stood and walked to the window, looking out at Earth's night sky. 50,000 years ago they tried to kill us. They failed. Now we're going to tear down their beautiful lie. And then? She turned back, her eyes burning with purpose. Then we're going to kill the gods they've been feeding. Outside, human ships prepared for what would come next. In the archives on Lumina Prime, Crystal Song and Morning discovered Kex's unauthorized access and alerted security. On 1,000 worlds, beings went about their peaceful lives, unaware that tomorrow everything would change. The broadcast would begin at dawn. The galaxy's last peaceful night had begun. Commander Marcus Webb watched the countdown on his helmet display. 3 minutes until the operation began. Around him, his team waited in perfect silence, invisible to every sensor the Concordat possessed. They floated in the darkness between stars, in a region marked as empty space on every galactic map. But it wasn't empty. Before them hung a structure the size of a small moon, organic and wrong, pulsing with a sick purple light. Target confirmed, Marcus said quietly into his comm. Harvester feeding station, designation Echo 7. Beginning approach. His team of 12 moved forward. They wore suits that shouldn't exist, designed using principles humanity had learned during their exile. The suits existed partially outside normal space, making the wearers invisible, intangible, undetectable. They had been doing this for weeks now, mapping, recording, learning, and when possible, sabotaging. Marcus had been a soldier before Earth vanished. He had been 28 years old, eager, inexperienced. Then his world had been torn from reality, thrown into a pocket dimension that human scientists called the between space, a place where normal physics bent and broke. For 200 subjective years, humanity had survived there, fought there, changed there. Marcus was now technically over 50,000 years old, but his body was still young, preserved by medical technology humanity had developed out of desperate necessity. He had spent most of those 200 years fighting things that shouldn't exist. Entities that fed on fear and thought, creatures that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The harvesters had seemed almost normal by comparison. Almost. Approaching outer membrane, said Sergeant Yuki Tanaka, his second in command. No defensive response? They still can't see us. The structure loomed before them, a massive tumor in space. Its surface rippled with organic movement. Pods the size of buildings grew along its flanks. Inside those pods, Marcus knew, were the harvested. Beings taken from their worlds, kept alive, feeding the structure with their suffering and eventually their deaths. Plant the recorders, Marcus ordered. I want every detail documented. The team spread out, attaching devices to the structure's surface. These recorders would broadcast everything they saw directly to Earth's network. Evidence that couldn't be denied or explained away. Marcus drifted closer to one of the pods. Through the semi-transparent membrane, he could see a being inside. It looked vaguely reptilian, floating in some kind of fluid, eyes closed, alive but not conscious, dreaming maybe, or screaming silently. How many do you think are in there? Yuki asked softly. Thousands, Marcus replied. Maybe tens of thousands. From the last culling, probably. The Krell Dominion, if the timeline matches. 50,000 years they've been in there, Yuki said. Alive. Suffering. Marcus felt cold fury settle in his chest. Not for much longer. Set the charges, sir. We're just supposed to record change of plans. This station feeds the main harvester network. We cut it off, we hurt them. He paused. And we free the ones inside. Even if all we can give them is death, that's better than this. The team worked quickly, small devices, using exotic matter humanity had synthesized in the pocket dimension. Devices that could disrupt the harvester's organic technology. They placed them at key structural points. Charges set, Yuki reported. Detonation in 10 minutes. We need to go. They retreated to safe distance. Marcus watched the countdown. 5 minutes, 4, 3. His comm crackled. It was Dr. Amara Okonkwo calling from Earth. Marcus, the broadcast is about to begin. Are you recording? Every second, Doc, and we're giving them one more piece of evidence. Echo 7 is about to go dark. 1 minute. 30 seconds. 10. The structure convulsed. Purple light flickered and died. The pods began to rupture, releasing their contents into space. Some of those beings had been dead for millennia, preserved artificially. Others had just died, finally free. Marcus said a silent prayer for them all. Then he turned his ship toward the next target. Back on Earth, Dr. Amara Okonkwo stood in a laboratory deep beneath the surface. On her examination table lay something that had once been alive. A harvester drone, captured during a raid on one of their smaller installations. She had spent weeks dissecting it, analyzing it, trying to understand what it was. What she had found disturbed her more than anything she had seen in the between space. "It's not a machine," she said into her recorder. "It's not even naturally evolved. It's bred, domesticated. Like we domesticated dogs from wolves, something domesticated these creatures from something else." She gestured to the holographic display showing the drone's genetic structure. "The modifications are deliberate, systematic. This thing was designed to feed on sapient thought, on suffering, on the specific neural patterns produced by fear and pain in intelligent beings." Her assistant, a young man named David, looked pale. Who would create something like this? "Someone who wanted to control sapient beings," Amara said quietly. "Someone who needed a weapon that could terrify entire civilizations into submission. And the harvesters aren't the weapon. They're the enforcement system." She pulled up another display. "I've been comparing this to data we collected in the pocket dimension. The entities we fought there, the things that tried to consume us. They have similar genetic markers. I think the harvesters are domesticated versions of those beings. But why? What's the purpose?" Amara looked at him. "Control. Think about it. You're an ancient civilization. You've achieved incredible technology, but you can't control the younger species. They're aggressive, expanding, unpredictable. So you create a threat, a common enemy. You tell everyone you made peace with the monsters. In exchange for regular sacrifices, the monsters leave everyone else alone. But it means the elder species, the Virathan and Mikari and the others, they didn't make peace with the harvesters," Amara said. "They created them. Or at least they weaponized them. This whole system, the culling, the sacrifices, it's not about survival. It's about control." David sat down heavily. "Does Captain Chen know?" "I'm sending her the data now." Amara paused. "The galaxy is about to learn they've been living under tyranny disguised as paradise. And the tyrants are the ones they trusted most." In the command center of Earth's orbital defense platform, Captain Sarah Chen received the data. She read it twice, her expression growing harder each time. Around her, the broadcast was being prepared. Every screen on every world would show the same thing. Evidence of the culling, records of the council meetings, images of the harvester stations, testimony from Kex and Thelkasir, and now, genetic proof that the harvesters were created, controlled, maintained by the same beings who claimed to have saved the galaxy from them. "How long until we're ready?" Sarah asked her communications officer. 5 minutes, Captain. Every network in the galaxy is primed. They won't be able to shut us down fast enough." Sarah thought about the 50,000 years humanity had lost, the 200 years they had suffered in exile, the countless beings who had been sacrificed before them. "Then let's light the fire," she said. It's time the galaxy woke up. Across 10,000 worlds, on ships and space stations and homes and parks and government buildings, every screen suddenly changed. Every communication device activated, and a voice began to speak. "Citizens of the Concordat," Sarah Chen said, her face visible to trillions. "My name is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth. 50,000 years ago, your leaders tried to murder my entire species. Today, I'm going to tell you why. The peaceful night ended. The truth began. And in the darkness between stars, ancient beings stirred, sensing that something had gone terribly wrong with their carefully maintained garden of civilizations. The harvest was supposed to be routine, but the humans had come back and they had brought war." The riots began within hours of the broadcast. On Lumina Prime, thousands of young Quellans surrounded the council building, demanding answers. Their chants echoed through crystal streets. "Tell us the truth. How many died?" Similar scenes played out across 1,000 worlds. Species that had trusted the Concordat, that had believed in the peaceful order, now learned they were livestock in a cosmic protection scheme. In the council chambers, chaos ruled. Representatives screamed at each other. Some demanded the elder species resign. Others called the human broadcast lies and propaganda. A few, mostly from younger species, simply wept. Ambassador Thelkasir stood before the assembly. She had been reinstated after the broadcast, her emotional instability suddenly looking like justified moral outrage. "I have seen the evidence," she said, her voice cutting through the noise. I have stood on Earth, I have spoken with the humans. Everything they claim is true. The sealed archives confirm it. The genetic evidence confirms it. We have been living in a garden, yes, but gardens require culling. High Counselor Murthain stood, his crystalline body now fractured with stress lines. You understand nothing, you young ones. You speak of morality without understanding necessity. Before the agreement, the harvesters consumed everything. World after world, species after species. Our ancestors watched civilizations fall like leaves in autumn. So they made a deal with devils, Thelkesser shot back. Feed them one species every 50,000 years, keep the others safe. Yes. Murthain's voice boomed. And it worked. 30,000 years of peace. No galactic wars. No extinction events. Every species represented here exists because of that choice. Except the 13 species that don't, said Representative Koros of the Hysiri, a species known for their pacifism. Except the billions who died in the cullings. Did they agree to be sacrificed for our comfort? Speaker Vortax of the Makari rose, his collective voice resonating. They were problematic, aggressive. The Krell were conquerors who enslaved dozens of species. The Vex were religious fanatics who destroyed 3 worlds in holy wars. The humans were expanding unchecked, refusing to accept limits. Every culled species threatened galactic stability. And who decided that? Asked junior analyst Kex, now speaking as an official representative of the reform movement. Who gave you the right to judge which species deserves to live? The right of survival, Murthain shouted. The right of those who endured. You want to know the truth? Fine. I will tell you what our ancestors faced. He activated a holographic display. Images appeared. Ancient recordings from before the agreement. Worlds burning, species screaming, and the harvesters, massive beyond comprehension, feeding on entire populations. This is what the wars looked like. Murthain said quietly. This is what we faced. Billions dead. Dozens of species extinct. And the harvesters kept coming. Nothing could stop them. They exist partially outside our reality. Our weapons couldn't touch them. Our fleets were useless, he showed more images. Scientists working desperately. Diplomatic missions to the harvesters. Failed attempts at communication. Then we found a way, Murthain continued. A way to communicate with them. They were not mindless. They were intelligent in their own terrible way. And they agreed to terms. They would stop the wholesale consumption. They would take only what was offered. One species every 50,000 years, a tiny fraction of galactic population. In exchange for what? Thelkesser demanded. Murthain's color shifted to deep purple. In exchange for helping us maintain order. For keeping aggressive species in check. For ensuring the peace lasted. The chamber fell silent. Then Kex spoke, his voice shaking. You didn't just make peace with them. You made them partners. You used them as weapons to control the rest of us. Control. Murthain laughed bitterly. We saved you. Every species here should be grateful. We're livestock. Someone shouted from the observer gallery. You're farmers and we're your crops. The argument raged for hours. Finally, a vote was called. Should the Concordat continue its agreement with the harvesters? Should it surrender humanity to fulfill the current cycle? The vote split the galaxy. The elder species, those who had known the truth, voted to continue. Some younger species, terrified of war, agreed with them, but more than half voted to end the agreement, to stand with humanity. Then you have condemned the galaxy to war, Murthain said coldly. The harvesters will not accept this breach. They will come. And you will see what our ancestors saved you from. 3 days later, his prediction came true. The sensors detected them first. Massive void ships emerging from the spaces between stars. Not dozens, hundreds. Each the size of a small moon. Organic leviathans that hurt to look at. Their forms shifting in ways that defied geometry. The harvesters had awakened. And they were angry. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiant, Earth's new flagship. Around her, human vessels prepared for battle. But they weren't alone. Ships from 200 species had joined them. Young civilizations and rebel factions from older ones. Not enough to match the Concordat's full might, but enough to fight. Incoming transmission, her communications officer reported. It's from the Harvester fleet. Put it through. The voice that came through was not a voice at all. It was something that resonated in the mind, bypassing ears entirely. It spoke in images and emotions as much as words. Breach, detected, agreement, violated, Harvest. Will proceed. This is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth, Sarah replied. Your harvest failed 50,000 years ago. We survived. We adapted, and we're here to tell you that your agreement is over. No more species will die to feed you. Resistance, futile. You will be consumed. All will be consumed. Yeah, we've heard that before, Sarah said calmly. You're not the scariest thing we've fought. You're not even close. She cut the transmission and turned to her crew. All ships engage Protocol Omega. Let's show these things what humans learned in hell. The human fleet moved forward. Their ships began to shimmer, phasing partially out of normal space. Weapons activated that shouldn't exist. Reality anchors that locked the harvesters into fixed positions. Probability cannons that collapsed quantum states. Void torpedoes that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. The harvesters had been unchallenged for millions of years. They had grown complacent, secure in their power. They had never faced weapons designed specifically to counter extra-dimensional entities. The first harvester ship died in a cascade of collapsing dimensions. The second tried to phase away and found itself locked in place. The third managed to release its drones before a human boarding party appeared inside it, moving through spaces that shouldn't connect. But there were so many of them. And behind the human fleet, the Concordate's forces were divided. Some fought alongside Earth, others held back, uncertain, and some, led by the elder species, moved to stop humanity. We have Verithan warships approaching, the tactical officer reported. They're not targeting the harvesters. They're targeting us, Sarah's jaw tightened. They're really going to do this. They're going to fight us to maintain their deal with monsters. Ambassador Thelkasir appeared on a screen. She was aboard her own ship now, part of the rebellion. Captain Chen, we have Concordate ships breaking off to engage human vessels. The galaxy is tearing itself apart. Three-way battle, Sarah said. Us against the harvesters against the old guard. Perfect. She paused. Ambassador, can you get a message to the Concordate forces? Tell them we found something. Something about the harvesters they need to know. What did you find? Sarah's expression was grim. Dr. Okonkwo completed her analysis. The harvesters weren't just domesticated by the elder species. They were created by them. The whole thing, the wars, the peace agreement, all of it. It was a system designed to maintain control. The elder species are the real enemy. Thelkasir's antennae trembled. Can you prove it? We're transmitting the genetic data now. Share it with every ship you can reach. Sarah looked at the tactical display at the three-way battle developing. It's time everyone knew who's been pulling the strings. The broadcast went out on open channels. Dr. Okonkwo's findings, clear and undeniable. The harvesters were weapons, not independent entities. The cullings were not necessary for survival. They were tools of control, and across the battlefield, as ships destroyed each other and the harvesters fed, beings began to understand the full scope of the lie they had been living. The peaceful galaxy had been a prison all along, and the wardens were about to face judgment. All ships, Sarah Chen said. Her voice broadcast to every vessel in the human fleet. Target shift. New priority. The elder species command ships. Let's end this. For real this time. The battle for the galaxy's soul had truly begun. The battle of three powers raged across a dozen star systems. Human ships phased in and out of normal space, striking at harvester vessels with weapons that made reality scream. The rebel fleet, composed of 200 species, fought desperately against both the harvesters and the Concordate loyalists. And the elder species, led by the Verithan and Maikari, tried to restore the old order through force. But the galaxy was fracturing. Every day more species joined the rebellion. Every day more evidence of the elder species' manipulation came to light. The peaceful facade was crumbling. Commander Marcus Webb led a strike team into the heart of enemy territory. Their target, the source. The massive structure at the galaxy's core that Dr. Okonkwo's analysis had revealed as the true nest of the harvesters. Approaching the galactic center, Marcus reported, detecting massive gravitational anomalies. Whatever's down there, it's big. His fleet of 50 ships moved through clouds of ancient stars, and then they saw it. The structure was beyond massive. It wrapped around the galaxy's central black hole like a tumor, feeding on the energy streaming from that cosmic engine. Organic and mechanical at once, pulsing with sick light, it looked like it had been there since the galaxy formed. My God, breathed Sergeant Tanaka. How long has that thing been here? Millions of years, said Dr. Okonkwo over the comm from her research vessel. Maybe longer. It's not just a nest. It's a control system. The harvesters aren't independent beings. They're extensions of this thing, and the elder species have been tapping into it, using it to control the galaxy. Marcus stared at the monstrosity. Can we kill it? I don't know. But we can try. Amara paused. Marcus, I'm detecting something else. Life signs inside the structure. Not harvesters. Sapient beings. Thousands of them. Maybe millions. The culled species, Marcus realized. They're not dead. They're being kept alive in there. Feeding it. Rage and horror warred in his chest. 50,000 years. Some of those beings had been alive and suffering for 50,000 years. Their minds drained to power this cosmic parasite. We're going in, Marcus said. All ships follow me. We burn this thing out of the galaxy. Back at the main battle, Captain Sarah Chen faced a different crisis. The Harvester fleet was falling back, retreating toward the galactic center. But the Concordat loyalists were pushing harder. High Counselor Murthine's command ship, a massive Verathan crystal vessel, dominated the battlefield. His voice boomed across all channels. You cannot win. You are throwing away millions of years of stability. We are trying to save you from yourselves. You're trying to save your power, Sarah shot back. We found your control station. We know you've been using the harvesters to maintain dominance. This was never about survival. It was about control. Control is survival. Order is peace. You humans. You've been free for 200 years and you're already trying to destroy everything. We're trying to free everyone. Sarah's voice was fierce. You want to know what we learned in the pocket dimension? We learned that freedom is worth fighting for. We learned that you can't build peace on corpses. And we learned how to kill gods. The Defiant shuddered as Verathan weapons struck its shields. But Sarah's crew had spent 200 years learning to fight things that bent reality. They knew how to adapt, how to improvise. Return fire, Sarah ordered. Target their power core. Let's see how tough Crystal is when you hit it with collapsed dimensions. The human weapons fired. Space itself twisted. The Verathan ship's shields, considered impenetrable, shattered like glass. Murthane's final transmission was filled with disbelief. How is this possible? Because we're human, Sarah said quietly. We're really good at killing things that tell us we can't win. At the Galactic Center, Marcus's fleet pushed into the source structure. The organic walls pulsed around them, trying to crush their ships. Drones poured out by the thousands, but the humans kept moving forward. Approaching the core, Marcus reported. His voice was strained. The psychic pressure from the structure was immense, trying to break their minds. I'm seeing the prisoners. God, there are so many of them. In massive chambers throughout the structure, beings floated in suspended animation. Krell warriors, their scales dulled by millennia. Vex mystics, their third eyes closed in eternal nightmares. Humans, too, the ones who hadn't escaped with Earth. Millions of humans kept alive, their minds feeding the monster. Can we free them? Marcus asked desperately. Not while the core is active, Amara replied. It's keeping them alive, but also keeping them trapped. If we destroy it, they die anyway, Marcus finished. He closed his eyes. Then we make it quick. Better than 50,000 more years of this. His team planted the final charges, not just conventional explosives. These were reality bombs, devices that would collapse the structure into dimensions where it couldn't exist. Charges set, Tanaka reported. Detonation in 5 minutes. We need to leave, now. Marcus looked at the sleeping prisoners one last time. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry we couldn't save you. But we can avenge you. We can make sure no one else ends up here. The fleet retreated at full speed. Behind them, the countdown continued. 4 minutes, 3-2, the source screamed. The sound was psychic, physical, dimensional. Every being in the galaxy felt it. A cry of rage and pain and disbelief that something it had fed on for millions of years was fighting back. Then it died. The reality bombs detonated. The structure collapsed. Not into normal space, but into the spaces between. The same pocket dimension where humanity had spent 200 years. And in that hostile realm, without the stable anchor of the galaxy's central black hole, it would be consumed by the things that lived there. The harvester fleet stopped moving. All across the battlefield, the massive void ships went dormant. Without the source to direct them, they were just animals, lost, confused, dying. Captain Sarah Chen watched as the harvester threat ended not with a bang but with a whimper. The massive ship simply drifted, their lights fading. "It's over," she said quietly. "The harvesters are done." But the battle wasn't finished. The Concordat loyalists, seeing their ancient weapons fail, made a last desperate push. The elder species, faced with losing their control, chose to destroy rather than surrender. The final confrontation came at Lumina Prime itself. The capital world, symbol of galactic peace, became a battlefield. Ambassador Thelkasir led the assault on the council building. Not with weapons but with law, she and thousands of legal experts from hundreds of species stormed the archives, seizing records, broadcasting evidence, exposing every dark secret the elder species had kept. "You are under arrest," she told the surviving council members, "for crimes against sapient life, for conspiracy to commit genocide, for enslavement, for maintaining a system of terror disguised as peace." Some resisted, some fled, but most simply surrendered, their crystal bodies dulled with defeat. The galaxy erupted into chaos and then slowly into something new. Trials were held. The guilty were punished. New governments formed, truly representative this time. Earth became neither ruler nor outcast but one voice among thousands. The humans shared their technology, their knowledge gained from 200 years of survival in impossible conditions. In return, they asked only for honesty and freedom. 6 months after the battle, Captain Sarah Chen stood in what had been the council chambers. Now it was the assembly hall, open to all species. Representatives from 10,000 worlds gathered not to maintain control, but to build cooperation. Kex, now a senator representing the Quellans, approached her. "The latest reports show harvester attacks have completely stopped. The smaller ones that survived the source's destruction have been retreating into deep space." "Good," Sarah said. "And the freed species? The ones in suspended animation?" Kex's antennae drooped. "Most died when the source collapsed. But we saved about 30,000. Krelvex and yes, humans. Your people who didn't escape with Earth. They're being rehabilitated. It will take time." Sarah nodded slowly. 30,000 out of billions. But it was 30,000 who would have died anyway. 30,000 who could rebuild their species, carry on their cultures, tell their stories. "What about the Verathan and Maikari?" she asked. "The elder species who orchestrated this?" "Stripped of power, living under supervision. Some are helping with the historical records, filling in the gaps in our knowledge. Others are being held in prison stations." Kex paused. "Thelkasir argues for mercy. She says they acted out of fear, not malice." "Fear doesn't excuse genocide," Sarah said flatly. "But we're not them. We won't repeat their mistakes. Justice, not vengeance." She walked to the window, looking out at Lumina Prime. The city still gleamed, but now it felt different. Honest. Real. No longer a pretty lie hiding an ugly truth. "You know what's funny?" Sarah said. "We spent 50,000 years lost. We suffered for 200 years in a hell dimension. We came back expecting to find paradise and instead found a prison. And now? Now what?" Kex asked. Sarah smiled, a real smile this time. "Now we get to build something better. No more cullings, no more sacrifices, no more lies. Just a galaxy of different species trying to figure things out together. It won't be perfect. It'll be messy and complicated, but it'll be real." She turned back to the assembly hall where beings of every shape and kind were arguing, debating, compromising. "We returned after 50,000 years and everyone thought we'd bring war. Maybe we did, but we also brought something else. What's that?" "Hope," Sarah said. "The hope that things can change. That freedom is worth fighting for. That you don't have to accept the way things are." Kex's forearms gestured in his species' sign of agreement. "The galaxy was calm before you returned, but it was the calm of slavery. And now? Now it's chaotic, messy, uncertain." Kex's antennae perked up. "I wouldn't want it any other way." Outside the window, ships from 1,000 worlds came and went, free to travel, free to speak, free to build their own futures. The galaxy would face new challenges. There would be conflicts, disagreements, struggles. But they would face them together honestly. Earth had returned after 50,000 years. The galaxy's calm had been revealed as a lie. And from the ashes of that lie, something true was finally beginning to grow. Captain Sarah Chen looked up at the stars and thought about the humans still out there, scattered across the galaxy, rebuilding. About the other species finding their voices. About a future that wasn't predetermined by ancient powers. "Welcome to the real galaxy," she said quietly. "Messy, free, and ours to shape." And somewhere in the dark between stars, the last few harvesters drifted away into deep space, their purpose lost, their masters fallen. The age of controlled peace had ended. The age of genuine freedom had just begun. Humanity had returned, and the galaxy would never be the same. But this time that was a good thing.